Welcome back to Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And of course, in the AFC South, it's known for some nasty trench play. You've got some monsters at the offensive tackle and the guard positions, and maybe one at the center spot too. But you definitely have some beasts and behemoths in the trenches. And I wanted to kind of bring on someone that may know just a little bit about the trenches, the dirty work, the big guys in there that make the holes for the running backs to look pretty. I wanted to bring on former NFL offensive lineman George Foster. What's going on?
What's up, Mike? Man, glad to be here. Glad to be on here with you, man. We can talk about this good offensive line play, football related, man. I'm here. Let's chop it up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to get to that definitely, but of course, I want to highlight your career as well and talk about you, so people, if they're not familiar with you, they can get more familiar with you as well.
Okay.
Now I've got to ask. When did you start playing football, growing up, or anything like that?
The thing about this kind of a somewhat loaded question. I say that because it kind of brings to mind some things I talked to parents about sometime when it comes to football and their kids is especially tackle football is they kind of get worried about their kids starting too late and things like that nature. But I didn't get to play Pop Warner. My first sport was baseball. Um, uh, Back in the day, there were weight limits, size limits for like I've always been a big kid, and just with my mom and my parents had split, and there wasn't anybody to just take me back and forth to practice and do all that stuff. So, a culmination of things made it to where I didn't get to play any Pop Warner football. So I didn't really start playing football until seventh grade. And in seventh grade, I may have played about three plays. Now, all this time, I loved football, man. I used to watch the NFL films. I used to get the VHS tapes from like Goodwill and stuff, or a yard sale or whatever that my parents might pick up for me. I was infatuated with the sport, but I didn't get to play till maybe seventh grade. I probably got in. I was a green raw kid. I didn't play much. I feel like I played about three or four plays the whole season. It seemed like. Um, Eighth grade started to play again. Also started to not uh, do as well in school as I should. I was a smart kid. I was in gifted program and everything, but I wasn't taking it serious and all that.
Mhm.
And my mom was like, "Nah." She sat me down and she pulled me. Like I didn't, I could play by the school standard, but I couldn't play by her standard. And so she made me quit football. So I got my first real taste of playing consistent football in ninth grade. So I started playing in ninth grade for real, for real. Like so I was getting play time, getting I think I may have started position, but that was just on ninth grade team. Then I played B team. Like I'm from Macon, Georgia, so where I'm from, they had ninth grade football, they had junior varsity football, and they had varsity. I did all of them. That was my progression. So I look at my career in football as a progression. I didn't start out this wonder child or anything. It just started out step by step, and I just kept building on it because I enjoyed playing the game, and that's the beginning of it.
Got you, got you. Definitely, I will say that everyone has their different routes and different ways to play, and definitely for sure. I mean, you have some guys that are basketball players that end up playing football, some guys that don't play till college or high school, and some that play forever and ever. So yeah, definitely was a listening to your journey was definitely some journeys that I've heard before, and
Hmm.
definitely bits and pieces that are very unique to your journey as well.
Hmm.
Now, as far as playing football. So you're playing. When did you kind of start thinking about potentially doing this for a living, or kind of think you could actually do this at the next level? When did that start to creep into your mind?
Uh, I feel like listening to that question and trying to put it in perspective, I feel like it was always based on someone else's opinion or someone
Ah,
else's if I guess that opinion of me or evaluation of me. You
mhm.
know, in high school is like I was just playing because I loved it. I enjoyed it. I played hard. I wanted to be good, and I ended up having size and speed, and that came with scholarship offers. So I made it to the next level, which was college. I played at University of Georgia, and got a scholarship. And uh, when I got there, I wasn't ready yet. I redshirted. Learned the game bit by bit, and eventually grew into my own. And then the next year, I was able to get my first start as a redshirt freshman. Uh, didn't start the whole season, but I got this my first time getting the chance to really play, and then took step from there, and then it was like you start seeing your teammates get uh, get attention. It's like, okay, I might can I might can do this, and you see them go. Some of them go to the NFL. I played with a ton of NFL players. It's kind of one of the underrated aspects of my tenure um, at Georgia. I don't think many people realize. Probably some of my teammates don't even realize how many NFL players we played with. I counted them one day, and like as far as I took the field with 60 guys at minimum that played at least a year in the NFL.
Wow, that's a
So
lot.
yeah, that's a lot. I didn't think of it, and I didn't think of even thinking about that till maybe a few years ago. So I started googling, looking, going back to my first year, like, who we played with. Like with like my first year, I played with uh, head coach now, Kirby Smart, Champ Bailey, Matt Stinchcomb, Chris Terry, those guys like that. So even from that all the way on, it ended up being like 60 some guys. So you seeing that happen, and you're looking at yourself. Okay, I can run. I'm pretty strong. I can play. I get a little better, and then you get on the field, and it's like, okay, I belong. And then your coach is telling you belong. And then my junior year is kind of like you start getting attention from agents and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, I can play for real, for real. Like I didn't, I wasn't thinking like, okay, I'm this, big time player or anything. That wasn't my. I just like, I just love playing football. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so it probably didn't come a real solidified goal to maybe halfway through college when I figured out, okay, I could play, and that was based on, okay, these people think I can play, so I'm gonna go ahead and attack it head on.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that.
No, you good. You good. Hey, life happens, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely was a winding road, and definitely was interesting how you talked about the progression of from freshman to JV to varsity, and then from redshirting to not playing to starting to being looked at as a professional, potential professional football player, and that's exactly what you ended up being in terms of being drafted in the first round, 20th overall by the Denver Broncos. Now,
Hmm.
that was the 2003 NFL draft. Now,
Hmm.
I gotta ask, what was the feelings? What were the feelings you were feeling on that particular night of draft night?
It was cool, and uh, a lot of people, that may be a little younger, uh, don't really understand that it wasn't a draft night. The draft started early. The draft started early in the day. I forgot when it could. It was noon or two. It wasn't past 1 or 2 o'clock when it started. And the second day was even earlier.
All
And
right.
so it was a draft day. I kind of wrote about it, on Medium a couple few years ago. My draft day experience. My draft day actually started out in uh, in Athens. I'm from Macon, Georgia, which is about an
Mhm.
hour and a half from Athens. It started out in Athens because stayed up there and hung out with some friends the night before. I can't remember. I think we might have partied some or hung out, just had a good time. And then I woke up the next morning, packed a bag and whatnot, and hit the road to Macon. And showed up to Macon at my mom's house, and that's where all the festivities were. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm from Macon, Georgia, somewhat small town, relative to Atlanta and things
Mhm.
or whatnot. Uh, uh, Self-proclaimed country. We like to cook out. So we had the grills going and everything else, and just just a family gathering in the backyard and in the house or wherever else you could get your place in the mix to be present. Um, and so a lot of loved ones, a lot of family, a lot of friends, um, and we just had a good old time, man. It wasn't anything intense. It was just laid back. I was prepared for whatever was going to happen. It was going to be a joyous occasion, whether I went first round or or fifth or seventh. Or it didn't. This is something that was happening that I didn't know was going to happen as a kid. Anything, so everything was a plus. You know what I mean? And then it turned out that I didn't have to wait long. You know what I
Right.
mean? Pick number 20. So, it happened. They called my uh I still had old raggedy cell phone. So they had my agent's number, and they called my agent. I don't even know where I was. So I don't know if I was watching at the time or in the back of the in the backyard talking to somebody or about a grill or talking to whoever was grilling and whatever. But I eventually got the call from my agent, and then it was a wonderful time, man. Still got a few pictures from that day, and it was cool.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a good old time. I will say that actually my wife's family is from Georgia. They're actually from Rennes, Georgia, which is about 45 minutes from Augusta. So, so I definitely know about the country and hanging out in the backyard. I know all about
That's
that.
what we do. Just have a good old laid back time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, fast forward to you're playing in the NFL. You're in all these big stadiums, playing against the best of the best. I mean, what was the feeling like just being out there? Training camp, playing. Training camp's coming up for some and it started for most of everybody. But what
hmm
was the feeling like just going into training camp and doing your first one in the NFL?
The thing about my first training camp is uh, it was kind of anticlimactic
Oh.
because you know I had to look. I had the opportunity to hit the field beforehand because in the NFL you have mini camps and OTAs and stuff like that. So I was able to get my feet wet in the spring. When we got to camp, um, uh, um, I hurt my foot. I sprained my foot really, really, really bad on the
Mm,
first day of training camp.
wow.
Like the first day, it took me out you know, for weeks. You know what I mean? I didn't come back to maybe the next to last preseason game, and we had played maybe five that year. I think we might have played in the Hall of Fame game, and
Okay.
so I didn't come back to till the next to last uh, preseason game,
Hmm.
and I still didn't feel right. But as a rookie, first round pick, you feel the pressure that you have to play, that you need to be out there. You don't want to be on the sideline. And I just, I went out there and I was supposed to play maybe a handful of plays. I was out there for it seemed like 3 quarters.
Wow.
Up in this is when they was renovating Soldier Field, and so we were playing in Champaign, Illinois, playing against the Bears, and yeah, so that like my first training camp was basically me rehabbing, trying to learn on the sideline with Coach Alex Gibbs, rest in peace. Um, just trying to learn from him, and so I can be ready when it was my time to get back on the field.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, what can you say? One of your you did play, of course, for the Browns, the with excuse me, the Broncos. I'm sorry, the
Mhm.
Lions. For majority of your NFL career.
Mhm.
What can you say is one of your most memorable moments in the NFL?
Memorable moments in the NFL. Like there's a lot of history and fanfare in the AFC West with a few of the, I guess you can call them flagship teams like the Raiders.
Hmm.
Broncos have been one since what, like 1960. You got the Chiefs with their history, playing in one of the first Super Bowls, if not the first, I can't remember. Um, and so just going to Arrowhead. Arrowhead is the loudest place I've ever been. They get up for the Broncos, as you can probably tell. Um, it's ridiculous. Then you're going into the black hole in Oakland. You got people screaming at you, yelling obscenities, throwing stuff at the bus. You ride through there in the bus, and you get there before the game, and saying they already ready and rowdy. You know what I mean? And you're doing that, and that's those are good memories. Playing in Lambeau, which is always hard. I don't think I ever won in Lambeau. Going up there, uh, that's a memory. Stuff that you see as a kid, stuff that I used to see on those NFL films, VHS tapes.
Hmm.
You see in Lambeau Field, and you're looking at Coach Lombardi, and next thing you know, you're playing on where those guys played. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
another memorable moment. Barry Sanders is my favorite player. I was able to get a couple jerseys to him for during the Hall of Fame game for him to sign, and it actually happened. You know what I
Oh,
mean? We had
wow.
one from somebody from the team get the jersey to him, and they got him signed for me. My guy Freddie, used to work with the team, and he actually got it done for me, and so that was a highlight. Um, man, playing in Detroit with getting to witness uh, the birth of Megatron. Like I saw him hit the scene, and it was like you knew you were seeing something special. Like
Hmm.
you knew you were seeing something legendary. This cat that looks like you know outside linebacker.
Hmm.
He's looking like Javon Curse out there, but he's a receiver, and
Right.
he's running faster than everybody on the field. You're witnessing that.
Hmm.
Um, like so, it was just there was a myriad of things. Winning the AFC West, going to the AFC Championship, um, thinking I just knew I was on my way to the Super Bowl. I was like, the Steelers can't beat us. We wanted to play the Steelers, and 'cause we didn't want to go to uh, Indianapolis again.
Hmm.
Indy was Peyton guys. Them guys was rolling back then. You know what I mean? And then that was Pittsburgh's year. They ran the table from the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
and we got caught up in that buzzsaw. We weren't ready, and they put the beating on us, and experiencing that, high and the low of, at eventually losing that game. Um, just the number of Hall of Fame players I played with and against. You know what I mean? Played with Camp Bailey and uh, Shannon Sharp and uh, 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 probably going to have an opportunity. Still waiting to hear back from some people to go see Richard Seymour be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Didn't play with him in the league, but of course I played with him in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and but played against him in the NFL. Um, he's going into the Hall of Fame next week, and so it's a lot of good memories, man. And I met some of the best friends that I've ever had in the NFL. Most of, you know, a lot of those guys, I'm getting older now, so basically I've known those guys for near 20 years now. And some
Yeah.
of them, I trust with my life. You know what I mean? Some really good guys that I met along the way. So it was a good time. It never ends when you think it's gonna end. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it ends. It's it ends sooner than most guys think. That's usually how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But the time I did have, I enjoyed it immensely.
Well, like my guy Danny Thompson, he definitely enjoys you on Twitter. In the touring the AFC South inbox, Danny Thompson Foster is a great follow on social media, which you are.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it, man. I don't take myself too seriously. There's a lot of people take themselves way too seriously on social media, and that's I'm kind of the antithesis of that. I'm on there. Yeah, I have as you guys know, I have my serious moments. As far as commentary, probably mainly socially.
Mhm.
Social commentary things that I feel heavily, strongly about. That I don't waver on. But for the most time, I'm have fun. Like to see people laughing. I love to laugh myself. I love when things on Twitter bring me to tears laughing. I enjoyed it. And so it's always cool to bring that type of joy to someone else. I get approached a lot in public about my Twitter. You know what I mean? Like essentially, people enjoy what I do on Twitter, and I'm just being me. It's not, I don't have to think about this stuff. I just, I say what comes to my mind, and put it out there. And you may agree, you might not agree, you might think it's funny, you might not. It's all me.
There we go.
100%. And
Mhm.
and so I hear that a lot, no matter where I'm at. I feel like people they'll come up to me and talk about Twitter more than they would about football, and that's just
Nice,
how it is now.
nice. You may have another career like Spice Adams. He's definitely made his own career outside of.
Spice is funny, man. We saw that. I met Spice. I've been knowing Spice since the Senior Bowl when we were coming out, and so I've known Spice a good while, and we kind of saw all this unfold for him in real time. Like I used to tell him that this would happen.
Mhm.
Like no lie. Like I was like, because I could just see it. It's just the package is there. He's funny, really lovable, likable. It's packaged for adults and kids. And I just felt like he was gonna take off, and look at him now.
Right, right. I mean, he's making us laugh with every dance move and every impersonation.
Yeah, yes indeed.
Yeah. Now, of course, we've kind of gone into a little bit of the NFL, but what's going on with you life after football right now?
Life after football. I entered. uh, after I retired, I was mulling over what I wanted to do, and I told myself that, I want to do one of two or three things, that involve coaching, scouting, and something in the media with football or sports in general. And I've had the opportunity to do, excuse me, to do really all of them, and probably only, in two of them actually work in. I've, you know, I've done the first thing I was able to do, and I guess you could say uh, earn a paycheck from was some some media stuff. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I did some things with Comcast Sports South many years ago when it was still up and running, and that's where I met my fellow bulldog. Um, uh, um, I feel your name that quick. That's that's
It
that's
happens to the best of us,
that's,
right?
that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I hit my head on the hit my head too many times playing football. How did her name slip me that quick? But we used to do the dog we used to do the dog report,
Mm-hmm.
and that's gonna bother me. That's gonna bother me. We have
Hey, you probably forgot more football than I've ever played, so hey, I understand.
uh uh how did that slip me that quick? That's scary too.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just so that is pretty scary.
I
Um,
understand.
as anyway, it used to be me, DJ Shockley, Bob Priscilla,
Mm-hmm.
Keelan Johnson, uh, uh, and we used to do a dog report. We do SEC football on
Mm-hmm.
Friday, uh, and we did that for Comcast Sports South Network, and ended up doing some stuff with 11 Alive down here in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, that was my TV exposure.
Mm-hmm.
That was my experience with doing TV. Um, uh, then I I kind of got I was able to do TV when I thought I was retired. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but you end up realizing that how what a commodity linemen are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I had I had not turned in my papers and all that stuff, but I was
Mm-hmm.
pretty much I said, okay, I'm done. Nobody's calling and this, that, and the other. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going down to Senior Bowl, uh, just getting connections, just networking, talking to coaches, and then obviously there's coaches down there that know me from playing, and so I'm telling them what I'm down there doing or whatever, and every other guy be like, "You sure? You don't think you got anything left?" I'm like, "Ain't nobody calling, man. Don't nobody want me. You know what I mean? At the time I'm over 30. At the time I'm like 30. I'm probably 32, and nobody's calling.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then you know, but every other person down there in Mobile would be like, "I think you got something left in you. You just hang tight, be in shape."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, I'm not paying them no attention. And then I go hang out on the fence watching linemen with my guy Coach George Warhawk. He's been
Mm-hmm.
in the AFC South, before down there with Jacksonville. I don't know where Hop is now, but he's definitely coached Jacksonville, coached in that conference
Mm-hmm.
and in that division. And he's talking. I'm telling him what I'm trying to do. He was like, It seems like you said you had a good preseason, last year. I saw you playing. I had played with the Saints in the preseason, and he
Hmm.
was like, you look good, You never know, man. Stay ready. I was like, don't nobody want me, man. I'm good. He was like, man, he was like, you never have enough big, strong, athletic guys that play offensive line on your team. You can never have enough.
Hmm.
And I was like, hot. I'm looking at him right there. That's the new crop right there. He watching it. He was like, that ain't enough. And I was like, all right. I still didn't pay it no attention. So I go back home and I'm working out for the sole purpose of, okay, I need to get some of this weight off.
Hmm.
I'm not playing football anymore. So I'm working out, nothing major. I'm doing water aerobics because of my joints and
Hmm.
stuff. And, I'm just staying in shape. Maybe shed few pounds, but trying to stay in somewhat kind of in shape. And lo and behold, I think I'm in the shower one day, and I get a call from my agent, and I'm like, I'm like, what are you talking about? So I take the call because it's odd to hear from him, at that moment in that time, and he was like, hey, you in shape? I'm like, yeah, I've been doing a little something. He was like, hey, the coach want to work you out. So I went and did the workout, got signed. You know what I mean? I ended up having an injury settle with them,
Uh,
because I got hurt in the preseason. Um, and so I did the TV before then,
hmm.
did a little TV after that, but but not soon after I got out of that for real. Um, that's also when I learned that a high ankle sprain was a real deal injury. Before then, I thought I was like, high ankle sprain, you can't solve. They miss a game for they miss a game for an ankle sprain because you hear it as
Hmm.
an ankle sprain. You don't realize that a high ankle sprain is something totally different than a sprained ankle, and you can't do anything. Like any type of movement it sounds like it feels like somebody stabbing your leg.
Ooh.
So I didn't feel right till maybe 9 weeks after that injury. So of
Mm.
course I didn't get any calls then. After that, I fully retired, and then I went into scouting. I got an opportunity to intern with the St. Louis Rams, and I didn't know where it was going to take me. They brought me in on a one-way ticket. Didn't tell me
Mhm.
how long I was staying. Uh, just tossed me in a room. It was like, watch this tape, make this cut up, do this, do that. I had to learn how to evaluate on my own, uh, that was by design. They weren't gonna hold my hand through the process, and uh, myself and a couple other gentlemen, B Hill and my guy Danton Bartow, who passed away was that last year, that's last year, the year before last, in COVID. Uh, uh, we just we just put our head down and worked. And then that summer, that May, like they kept us through the draft and everything. And then that May, they hired all of us. Um, and so I did that for the next few years until they moved to LA. And
Mhm.
then when they moved to LA, I've been back here in Atlanta, uh, raising my daughters. I got teenage daughters, which is an interesting ride. Um, and and that's what I've been doing now, man, and trying to find out what I want to do with the next, you know, how many of years I got on this earth. And
Mhm.
so I recently, I've always enjoyed looking at, you know, uh, photographs and respected art of photography, and just from a I guess you want to say a fan standpoint.
Mhm.
I'm like, man, this is really awesome. How did they do this, that, and the other? And then I eventually got into it myself. I took my first photography class, and it opened up my eyes to the world of photography and what I had not known. what I was missing when I would just pick up a camera and just you throw it on auto and you just take a picture. You don't know why it's blown out. You don't know why it's blurry. You don't know
Hmm.
this or that. And to learn all of that and to learn why certain things are what they are within the camera, what's aperture, what's speed, what's shutter speed, what's you know, uh, things like that. And so I fell in love with photography. And so I took another class. And so then I was able to, I would just show up at some events and take stuff, take pictures at concerts, or I got a chance to do the, take pictures at the Versus with 8 Ball MJG and UGK and
Man,
things.
I bet that was an experience right
That was
there.
an experience. I grew up on them cats, man.
Yes,
That
same,
was my
same.
childhood in a nutshell. Like I was in heaven. You know what I mean? Able to take pictures at that and just learning my way through the art, man. And we'll see where it takes me. So doing that, got a chance to do some more TV back at the news station again, and just I guess you can call me a freelancer of
There
sorts,
you go.
man. Just see where what the journey is. It's a unique uh, situation having to retire from something so young. So you have so much, hopefully, so much of your life left to figure out what to do next. And it's challenging for a lot of guys, challenging for most guys. And so you just have to stick to finding what you love to do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And that's what I'm trying to do. Take it as it comes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely the photography. I did not see that one coming, but I definitely know you had to enjoy yourself. 8 Ball MJG, man. Space Age
Man,
Pimpin', one of my favorite
hey,
songs of all time.
hey, man, that was listen, that was wonderful. I had met 8 Ball MJG a couple times before. One time in St. Louis, another time in Atlanta. Um, but just to see them rock the stage again and able to take some pictures of them, that are mine, and that was pretty cool, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I bet it was. I bet it was. What's even cooler is you actually evaluated players, and I'm going to talk about a couple
Yeah.
players that were evaluated maybe a while back, but have been in the
Hmm.
league maybe a few years themselves and are still playing. That would be one would be Mr. Taylor Lewan for the Tennessee
Hmm.
Titans. Now, of course, he was their first round draft pick out of the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
He now is a veteran on the team. He tore his ACL a couple years ago. Last year came back. He was kind of, in and out sometimes, and he definitely could favor that knee. You could tell just by how he was moving. Um, he's reaching that point in his career where closing in on 10 years, and a lot of people are starting to kind of question and doubt different things about him. I mean, I know you're familiar in terms of, kind of getting to a certain age in your career and people maybe potentially doubting you. What do you think he's kind of thinking about in terms of that aspect of getting, proving people wrong or continue to play at a high level when people think maybe you've lost a step or maybe this thing has happened?
There's a bit of there's somewhat there's probably a lot going through his head. There's this duality of I want to show these people, want to prove people wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I still can play at this level. Um, but there's also the side of you can only do what your body will let you do. You know what I mean? So uh, we'll have to see what his body allows him to do when he's healthy. He's a really good player. You know what I mean? Good technique. You love his aggressiveness. He can. He's he take it over the top a little bit. If it gets there, but he's a good player, and so he would. He's a big part of that offensive line success, if they can get him playing at a good level or at his level that he's used to, they're a better team. There's no doubt about it. Um, but he's definitely got to see what his body lets him do, and because the mind is there. You know what I mean? You line somebody up against me right now, I know what to do and how I need to block this person. I
Mhm.
can't do it no more. But I know what I would need to do, from person to person. But we'll have to see with Mr. Luan. You know what I mean? Just to see what his body let him do. Um, is it a natural progression of that knee getting stronger in year two away from it, away from the injury, or is there some residual, loss,
Mhm.
associated with that knee? So we'll see. It's tough for big guys, you know. Uh, but at the same time, it's not a position where he has to do a lot of cutting and whatnot. So we'll see how it goes for him. But he's definitely been a good player in his own right since he jumped into the league. He's probably been what most evaluators thought he would be. You
Mhm.
know.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, jumping from that offensive tackle to another offensive tackle that just got paid. I mean, paid in Jacksonville. That would be Mr. Cam Robinson. Now, coming out of Alabama, everyone was saying he's this, he's that. Everyone was heaping praise upon him. But it just seemed like sometimes in Jacksonville, it's just like everything wasn't coming together for him. Now, last year they franchise tagged him. This year they franchise tagged him, but they decided to reward him with a new contract extension. Now, it seems to me they're not all the way sold on him. It just seems to me, even though they did pay him,
Hmm.
he, to me, with him and you've got Brandon Sheriff together, which they brought in from the Commanders.
Hmm.
Do you think those guys are potentially enough to kind of turn around what's been kind of a bad Jacksonville offensive line for the last few years?
It's definitely a start. You got Cam Robinson. May not have lived up to what people thought he could be, but he's basically been what he was at Bama. He had his moments at Bama where you wanted him to be better. You know what I mean? But it kind of goes back to what I said before about when I was mulling retirement, that there aren't many guys like that walk the earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He has things that most guys don't have. He's a big guy. He can move. He's strong. You know what I mean? He can play the position. Not many guys on the earth or in the NFL can play the tackle position, and at a high level. As a professional. And
Mm-hmm.
so those guys come at a premium. And so yeah, they can tag them all they want. But if you want a guy, if you just say you don't think he's great.
Mm-hmm.
Just say you don't think he's great. You know what I mean? In scouting, we had levels. You know, blue. If you were a blue player, you were a Pro Bowl player, Pro Bowl caliber. Blue, you were rare. That's the main word associated with blue. Red, you were a good player.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was like purple. The majority of the league is purple. The majority of the league is not good. Definitely not blue. You know what I mean? Majority of the league is purple. If they believe Cam Robinson is a red offensive tackle, you keep that all day long
Mm-hmm.
because you're probably not going to come across another red offensive tackle.
Oh,
Red offensive tackle not going to be perfect. You know what I'm saying? But he's going to be good. He's going to show up every day, and you can win. You can win with him. You don't worry. You don't worry about that position. If you got a red offensive tackle, that's one position you don't worry about on
okay.
Sundays. You know what I mean? So if they feel they got that, you got to pay what you weigh. You know what I mean? You got to pay for it, and you might as well lock them in there because the odds of you signing, you're definitely not going to get one as a free agent because typically guys that are that good don't hit free agency, and your chances of finding one in the draft is going to be rare too. So if you
Mhm.
got one, you want to keep him. I like Sheriff coming out. You know, I knew he was going to be a guard because I think they had him at tackle at Iowa, but I knew he would be a guard. Just his build, his makeup, he didn't fit the tackle mold. He didn't move like a tackle. But when he got to, Washington, I think he played good football. You know what I mean? So a lot of those having those two guys on the same side, they can definitely open up some holes and move some furniture. So
Definitely.
I think it's a good start. If you feel like you got two red guys, you cooking with grits.
There you go. There you go. Now you did mention Brandon Sheriff and then him playing the tackle and then moving the guard. I want to mention one of the guards, the best guards in the NFL, one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the NFL, Quentin
Hmm.
Nelson. Now you did mention you knew that Sheriff wasn't going to be a tackle in the NFL, and Quentin Nelson is one of the best guards in the NFL. Now, what kind of distinction? How do you kind of distinguish who's going to be a guard and who may be a tackle? Not necessarily the height and things like that, but just kind of the technique wise. Is there some differences there too?
With Sheriff, I didn't think he played very long.
Hmm.
I think he had a guard build. I didn't think he had the range in his lower body to, you know, to pass it against the longer, speedier, the more athletic uh, pass rushers in the NFL.
Hmm.
But man, he played hard. He came off the ball. He was so fast off the ball, so quick and explosive. Like he was everything you would want at a guard. And so, there was no doubt in my mind he was going to be an NFL guard. You know what I mean? Quentin Nelson, he started out at guard, and he was a dog at guard. So yeah, there's no need to project him at anything else. Some guys you have to project though.
Hmm. Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I'd always wondered, the differences between the guards and the tackles, but I know the long arms and the height definitely are it. But yeah, I would say probably the quickness and the explosiveness probably the difference between the guard and tackles in a sense.
Uh, it just depends. Some guys have that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Sheriff fit in with what Washington wanted to do. I think they had Callahan, and they ran that zone scheme, and
Hmm.
he fit it perfectly. Zone scheme, you have to be able to move, you have to be able to hook, reach, you have to be able to cut off backside, and also play with some explosiveness and move people off the ball. And he fit that mold perfectly.
Gotcha. Okay, so we went through, of course, your career, and we talked a little bit of offensive line play with the AFC South. But of course, like on every show, I have a game at the end of the show. I've got
Okay.
5 questions, or maybe six,
Hmm.
and I have two answers for you. You got to pick one. Are you ready?
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. Pass blocking or run blocking?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. Uh, oh man, let's um, let's go run blocking. Run
Okay. All
blocking.
right.
You get to impose your will. You know what I mean. You might get the double team. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and you might get a bootleg sometime where you ain't where it's kind of like you ain't really gotta block nobody for real. But it's still run blocking. You know what I mean. I'm gonna go run blocking.
Right, right. I figured you might say run blocking because run blocking is probably the more aggressive form of blocking in the
It's
pass.
aggressive. Now like I always tell people, pass blocking is not passive. Good pass blocking is not passive. You
Mm-hmm.
can beat people up in pass blocking. I tried to do both and do in both, but in run blocking it's just you get to be nasty.
There
And
you go.
I like being nasty. You know
There
what I
you
mean? I've
go.
been called dirty before, but so be it.
All right. Now, I'm going to give you two states. We're going to pick one: Georgia or Colorado.
Georgia, baby. And I love Colorado. I was able to go out there for the first time in a very long time, in over a decade. First time to go out there to the Raiders game last year with some old team. We had a blast, man. I went through.
All right. Tatum Bell or Mike Anderson?
Tatum Bell or Mike Anderson. Uh, I have to go with my boy T Bell. My boy T Bell. You know, once he hit that corner, he was out of there. You know what I mean? He was fast. The guy, the man from DeSoto, Texas. You know what I mean? My oldest daughter actually goes to DeSoto now, which is, that's my connection uh, to DeSoto. I know I blocked for him, and now my oldest daughter goes to DeSoto. So that's pretty cool. But I enjoyed blocking for Mike too, because you knew what you were gonna get with Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Mike played fullback, so Mike knew as a running back, he knew exactly where to plant and get downhill. It was a seamless progression for him when he moved from fullback to running back, and I think he even moved back to fullback the next year. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed blocking for all those guys, man. All those guys I blocked for in Denver, they were all good because Bobby Turner had them ready.
Mm-hmm.
If you hit that field for the Broncos back then, you were ready. Like, I didn't have no issues with any of those guys.
Right, right. Yeah, I definitely remember when all of them were doing that thing out there. It just man, putting it's just like it just never stopped. You looked up another Denver running back going for 1,000 yards. Good
Oh
gracious.
yeah. Yeah, we had three or four while I was there. We had
Yes,
four
sir.
different. I think Tatum rushed for 1,000, Portis rushed for 1,000, Anderson rushed for 1,000, Ruben Drones rushed for 1,000.
Hmm.
We hit, we just churned them out.
There you go. There you go. Now, which one did you enjoy more, college football or the NFL?
Hmm. Hmm. That's a tough one. Ain't nothing like getting paid to do what you love to do.
Right.
Uh, um, the one thing that would make me say college, because there are some identical things to it. I got lifelong friends from both.
Hmm.
To this day,
Hmm.
I could pick up a phone call right now. You know that I can say the guys that I love. So you got that. That's a tie.
Hmm.
The experience of playing big time football. That's a tie because I played in the SEC. So I've been up in Neyland Stadium where it's 110,000. You know what I mean? Ain't a pro stadium close to 110,000. Playing big time football did that on both levels. Uh, so for me, the tiebreaker is going to have to be the highest peak met, and I was able to win the SEC championship at Georgia.
Hmm.
So that's the only ring I have, only championship I have in anything. And so I'm gonna give the edge to college.
All right. All right. Now, of course, you played against both of these teams in the AFC West. That would be
Hmm.
the Raiders or the Chiefs. You had to pick which team if you had to, if the Broncos didn't exist, which team would you have to roll with if you had to cheer for one or go for one, the Raiders or the Chiefs?
Cheer for one to go for one. I know this is your show. This is your show, but let's say play for one.
Okay, there we go.
Play for one, and I'm just going straight off the nostalgia. The coldest jerseys in the game, I believe. The coldest uniforms in the game, I believe. I'm gonna have to say the Raiders.
All right, all right. And last question: Champ Bailey or Megatron? Who wins a one-on-one?
Who wins a one-on-one? That's a good question. Talking to Hall of Fame guys that I played with.
Definitely.
Ah, I'm gonna go with, man. That's tough. Megatron was a load boy. Oh man, he was a load. The only problem I have with Calvin is that he's a yellow jacket. So I gotta go with the Bulldog.
I knew that would come into play somehow, some
I
way.
gotta go with the Bulldog.
All right, so that is the end of our game for this episode, and that is the end of the episode. I want to thank everyone that tuned in. I want to thank you, Mr. George Foster, for kind of taking us down memory lane from when you started, when you football, kind of life after football, during football, and kind of giving a great analysis or scouting critique on current players that are actually in the NFL right now. And of course, we did talk about Spice Adams as well. I might
Mhm.
save that clip for a little bit later. But um, I want to let you have the floor, talk about things you're working on, and also give everyone where they can find you on social media.
uh, George Foster. My handles are George Foster 72. Uh, on everything. I'm really only on, if you saw me on Facebook, I believe it's George Foster. I'm not on Facebook a lot. Uh, but Twitter is George Foster 72. Instagram is George Foster 72. Um, Not working on much, but I am part of, I'm recent added as a co-host of the 100 Sanford podcast on the Roll Up Network. You can catch us on Twitter at 100 Sanford, and you can listen to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You got Spotify, you got Google, you got Apple, and check us out, man. We're talking all things dogs. We got recruits on. Gonna have some good guests coming on soon. Some guys that have committed. Some nice former dogs, some Hall of Fame guys that are going to come on. So check us out, 100 Sanford podcast. And if you're a fan of football, a fan of Georgia football, or just a fan of good good guys talking ball, man.
There we go. There we go. Well, thank you again for coming on. I definitely enjoyed the conversation, and I hope everyone that listened enjoyed the conversation. You have been tuned in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.
All right.